Welcome to Storytime with Sirece, my online talk show designed to create a safe space to simply hear people's stories. Knowing someone's history can truly change your perspective on who they really are. And in this world today, we need more compassion, empathy, and grace. So sit back and relax and join me on a journey as we hear different stories that will make you laugh, cry, and even encourage you to tell yours. Because everyone has a story to tell, everyone has a voice, and everyone deserves to be heard. And that happens right here, right now on Storytime with Sirece. And now, let's all welcome your host, Sirece Thomas. Hey guys! Woo! We are so excited. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are back with Storytime with Sirece, and we are up to episode 5. We are having so much fun hearing other people's stories, and today, our very next guest, I am super excited to interview myself, as you'll see why in just a few seconds. So sit back, relax, and don't forget, if you hear what you like, subscribe and share, because we are in for a treat, okay? So sit back and relax as we welcome our next guest on Storytime with Sirece, none other than my brother, Freddy Ray. Ray in the house. This is crazy. I'm super excited. I've actually not had the privilege to ever really interview my younger brother. So this has been really exciting. I mean, what I had said about my story time in my last episode was, it's one thing to know someone, maybe even grow up with someone or just be around them generally, and even to know their experiences and their journeys in life. When you really sit down and ask people certain questions, and Freddie, he's that guy that kind of taught me that. He's the guy that genuinely cares. Like, he genuinely wants to know, well, why did you decide to do that? I'm never ready for his questions because I'm just like, yeah, I just decided to switch jobs over there. And he's like, okay. So what made you think about that? And I'm like, dang. Like, even on my birthday, he'll be like, well, 37. I mean, what did you feel about 36? I'm like, dang, I don't know. I got to go back to my journal because, and I think that's wonderful to be naturally reflective. And that's one thing I admire so much about Freddie. He is naturally reflective. He will be like, wait, why did you do that? Now, when he was a younger boy, that's it. That's all he asked. My parents, but why? But a lot of kids do that. But I think Freddie genuinely wanted to know, because I hear my daughter do why. She don't really want to know, because the moment I answer the question, she's like, let me get that lollipop. But, Freddie, in life, I think that you've accrued a lot of wisdom, knowledge, life experiences, because you've really gotten to know people. I'm doing Storytime with Sirece. It's a personal journey for me, because I do struggle with making genuine connections with people. Not sure where that comes from, but I just always kind of have on a stage presence, but I'm just like, I want to know more about where people come from. So as we dive into this, I'm super excited. We're going to hear from Freddie and just kind of explore and just take some nuggets of wisdom from his life, because sometimes I look at him and I'm just like, man, how does he do it? Right. And people want to know that.
It's funny that you say that. I think I've naturally done that since I was young. But one thing that I learned as of recent is, if you look at people, it's kind of like looking at icebergs. The things that you see above the surface are the behaviors. You see what they do, how they act, how they respond. You see their tone, the body language, and all those things. So I find that when you ask those questions, it peeks beneath the iceberg, right? And those are those things such as your feelings, your beliefs, and your values that all drive the behaviors above the surface. So unless you know what those feelings, beliefs, and values are below the surface, then you can't influence or understand those things to either change them or change yourself and change the behaviors above. So there is an intent to those.
I love that iceberg analogy. That is so good. And I think for some people like myself, we just kind of look at the tips of Paul. We look at the top of the iceberg. We look at the top of the iceberg. And I don't know. So I think some people are not, like, you're kind of nervous to find out what's below. You ever some people will take a conversation and they'll just go places that maybe you didn't intend. And it's just like, and depending on what you're experiencing, I think it's very bold to recognize the surface and to even go below the surface.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's spot on, right? It's true understanding is the core. The other quick analogy we can go into it is like if you see a building, for example, it's very important to like observe and like witness that building, but it's like the building blocks and like why did you use those materials? What do they do? Like how does it provide for the structure of those things? So once you understand those things, then it unlocks a whole different perspective that you can bring to the table.
You're ministering now, because that's it right here. I want to hear people's stories because it's so easy to just assume. Like I can imagine people looking at your life. The Freddie right now is like a influencer, especially on TikTok, and it's kind of funny when I see the comment like, and I love how you respond to people because
Mm-hmm.
people just see the people just see the surface and people
Mm-hmm.
just see the building, but the infrastructure and what goes into it, I'm like, people don't always know that. People will quick to be like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna have 3 kids. But like
Mm-hmm.
what goes behind the sleepless nights, the tears, the confusion, the
Ooh,
insecurity, this
yeah.
is where we're gonna pick you apart right here,
Okay.
just in a good way. So we can understand that
Yeah.
there's a road, there's a journey to
Yeah.
get and what I like, honestly, when I see you, I hear the word success. And success
Yeah.
is not what everybody thinks it is. I don't see, oh my gosh, he's got it all. He's everything. I see success like, yo, he persevered.
Mm-hmm.
He persevered. If you can overcome, to
Yeah.
me, that is success. I see you with
Mm-hmm.
3 kids, I'm losing my mind with one. So when I
Yeah.
see people like that and they're still moving forward, I say, now that's success. Because
Okay.
you can have all the money, all the cars, all the job, and just like
Yeah.
literally be losing your freaking mind. And you have no peace, no
Yeah.
relationship with your kids. Your
Yeah.
marriage is half off. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we see the stuff, but I want to talk about true success with you today. So we're gonna rewind
Okay.
the time. I'm
All
already,
right.
I'm already hyped right now. So
Me too.
let me tell you something. My brother was my brother, and this is my perspective, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
from me looking out. My brother was always creative, always unique. Many times when he was younger by himself, he was 5 years younger than me. He was a boy. If you got kids and siblings, sometimes it just, he was doing his own thing. He learned to do
Mm-hmm.
his own thing. He learned to create his own lane. I learned that and saw that. And I think when he was in high school, I'm like, wow, I was pretty impressed with just how you came from creating your own lane to imbibing a whole culture. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my personal first time seeing you in leadership. Um,
Mm.
and I kind of wanted to start there, and you can feel free to go back. But where do you feel in high school, especially with football? That's when I would know our conversation started changing because he started talking to me about success, my version of
Yeah.
success, just like the obstacles, seeing him get up in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh. That's when I
Mm-hmm.
started feeling like I don't even, So tell me a little bit about your experience going into high school and how you feel that began to shape you as we think about who you are today.
That's a very interesting question because I think when I achieved or when I had the opportunity, was given the opportunity for others, because there's a lot of people that created those opportunities. It wasn't like just me working hard, for example, but there's like a strong component of it. But if I look at the leadership opportunities that I was given previously versus now, it was very different in terms of the methodology to achieve those leadership roles. I'll
Mm.
give you an example. I I guess I was always outgoing, but at the same time, when I got to middle school, like I felt like I changed schools quite a bit. And every time I entered a new school, I felt like a little introvert. You see like all these connections and you perceive them to be like lifelong connections that you want to kind of get into and make friends and all that stuff. And then you want to be funny and like be cool and all those things. And you have those normal school kid things that you care about as you try and figure out your identity. And I found it interesting going from middle school to high school. I went to St. Francis Prep, and this was like the like popular school right on Francis Lewis Boulevard.
Yep.
Dang, how long has it
I
been since
know.
I've been in New
It's
York?
been a
Yo,
while.
I should take
Pretty
my New York
Lou.
card. um, and I remember you went there, and it just was intimidating. You had the uniform, and like everybody was so cool. I had the style and stuff like that. And I actually did not want to go to that school just because you went there. I was like, all right, I want to try
That's
something
mad
different.
funny. That's mad funny.
Yeah, you were just too cool with your like friends and stuff. I'm like, all right, let me go find my own
High
coolness.
school is high school is when I transitioned into a loser. So I could have
Oh my god,
really used us being in the school at the same time.
that would have been interesting.
That's
Yeah,
a whole nother story
that
time.
would have been a whole yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
I don't know if that would have worked. That would have
Yo,
been such a jerk. I like
we never
promise.
had the opportunities to be in a school at
Yeah,
the same time because we weren't 4 years, we were 5 years apart.
yeah. Well, I'd probably like prank your locker or something like
Oh
every
my
single
gosh,
day.
I would have been screaming.
I am not the
Would have
best
been
sibling in
tight.
terms of
I
being
would have been
peaceful.
so
So,
tight.
oh my gosh. So what I found interesting. So by the way, I I wasn't going to go to St. Francis Prep. I was really, really, really good at math for some odd reason. I have no clue. All the years prior, like I always got 100s on all of my tests.
Yes.
When I tested in for the Catholic school system, like I like blew it out the park on the math part of that. Thus, St. Francis Prep had like a very profound interest. They were like, "Hey, if you come into St. Francis Prep, you're gonna skip like 3 grades of math."
Wow.
And because I liked math and I realized that was a strength, and I also wanted to play sports. I realized that was important. So fast forward to like football. I was never a football player. I hated football.
That's crazy.
And like you
That's
never
crazy.
see me play football when I was a kid. It was baseball, right?
Exactly. That's very
Yeah,
true.
that was my whole
I
jam.
would have never thought after you got into football. In my mind, I'm like, he must have always wanted to do this.
Oh no, like I hated football. Like they used to have commercials like hating on baseball players, and I was like, it just made me crazy. I also didn't understand the sport, but some context because this is important is, um, I think I had bronchitis the summer right before going into prep. I also had asthma, so I could not go outside.
Oh.
And finally, that like healed after 2 months. Um, I just like finished this like baseball tournament and I got this letter from St. Francis Prep. It said, "Hey, come try out for the football team." And I was like, "I hate football. I'm not gonna go do it." And then
Wow.
my god brother Curtis Stembridge, he also hit me up. He was like, "Hey, you're gonna try out for football?" I was like, "Nah, like I'm a baseball dude through and through. Let's go." And the day of football trials, I was sitting there in my room. It was like hot summer, bored. I was playing Madden, and mom walked in. She's like, "Do you want me to drive you to football practice or football tryouts?" And I said, "No, I don't like football." She left. I started playing Madden. I was getting my butt kicked by the computer, and I was like, "All right, you know what? If I'm not going to succeed on this video game,
I'm
I'm going
out.
to go try out for prep football."
That's crazy.
So I packed up my stuff and literally walked all the way to prep. It's like 35-minute walk from
Wow, I've
home.
never ever done that
You didn't
before.
know that?
Never. No, that's
Yeah.
great.
I was an
Oh
exercise.
my
I can't do that
gosh.
nowadays.
Yo.
Um, so it's funny when I got there, I was like super nervous, and I was more nervous about all the people that I saw. They like all went to Catholic schools together. They knew each other, and I was just this random dude from like
Yeah.
Shadyville, New York, Queens
Mhm.
Village, New York,
Yeah.
and we had this test to run the quarter mile, and I was taught by dad always hustle. Every time I did something, dad would always say hustle, hustle. Never ran a quarter mile before, and I didn't realize or know anything about pace and like anything like that. So, boom, blows the whistle, and like right out the gate, I'm like 20 yards ahead, 30 yards ahead, 40 yards ahead of the other like 60, 70 kids that were there. And I beat everyone like by phenomenally, at least like I don't know, like 400 feet or something. Maybe that's an exaggeration for anybody that calls me out on that day. But I beat everybody, and I was like, oh shoot, like I came into this football thing with all these other athletes. I thought I would like be behind the pack, but I think I can actually do this. For at least I know that I can run. And like right after I was dyingly tired, I was so out of shape. But a bunch of kids came up, they're like, "Wow, like good job, Dugard," because they started calling you by your
Oh
last name.
yeah. You was like,
I was like, okay, like,
right.
what's your name?
Exactly.
One of my friends, like Justin Ortega, was the first actually too. I remember him coming up to be like, "Hey man, like good job, you did like really good on the quarter mile." I was like, okay, like what is this whole like team thing where people celebrate you for doing good?
Oh yeah.
So when I had that moment, I was like, let me stay and try this out for a couple of days. When I got 2 weeks into it, in the middle of a run and then in push-up position following that run, I started crying because it was so hard in front
Oh
of
yeah.
everyone.
Oh man.
And I told the person next to me, "Hey, I'm gonna quit after today.
Yeah.
Like this is it." And I said that while in push-up position. But in my head, I was like, all right, I'm gonna quit. I'm crying. I will stick out the rest of this practice since we're almost done, and then like tomorrow, peace out. Now, I don't. This is a very interesting thing because this has happened a few times in my life. For some reason, I showed up to practice the next day, and I don't know why I did not quit.
Wow.
That next day was hitting day.
Mm.
And that's when I really learned and like felt the fun of football because now you can
Oh.
tackle and hit. And
Oh.
I was a 200-pound freshman kid. So like coming
Yeah.
in there, I was like, oh, you know what? That running sucks, but this hitting is fun. Maybe I'll
Wow.
stick it out. So long story short, to fast forward to the end of this, I we had it this day, and the coach was like, "Hey, we're gonna select captains at the end of practice or something like that." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, right?" Like I had no thought of ever being a captain. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't feel like a leader. I felt like the kid that just showed up to a bunch of friends that knew each other
Wow.
and started playing football. And lo and behold, they chose. I think the quarterback was one of the captains. Ramirez. They chose like Tristan Akong. I think Chris O'Connor, and then they were like, "All right, Freddie Dugard," and I'm like, "Huh? That's weird." And like
You were
everybody
still a
started
freshman?
clapping. Yeah, this was freshman year, so that was super weird. I was like, "Oh, like okay." I didn't think myself to be, you know, in a position of leadership,
Mm.
but thinking back during that time, that type of those type of opportunities were given under the core necessity to work
Mm.
very hard,
Yeah.
right? If you work hard, and as you said earlier, and you genuinely care about the things that you go do, right? Other people will see those. You'll be able to lead others. They will, naturally gravitate towards those behaviors that you're demonstrating,
Mm.
and that'll help be one component of helping you get into a leadership position. So, long story short, on prep football, I was not a great leader, which I learned like way after the
Wow.
fact. But I got pushed up to varsity as a sophomore. I was a football captain my senior year once again, varsity like football captain, and then that helped me succeed and accelerate to get a handful of scholarships to other colleges when it was around that time, to like 5 different like smaller schools. But that is what, you know, catapulted me to Missouri S&T, where I then played football once again, went through that whole process, and there I was a captain, a college football captain for 3 years, and like learned also a lot about leadership. I had some good leadership moments and some not so good leadership moments, which helped me later in my career. But that's the whole St. Francis Prep high school football journey. Involved a lot of hard work and a lot of like chance and a lot of decisions that in
Hmm.
high like at the time felt random, but I'm sure it had like a divine component to it.
Ooh. I like wrote stuff down here. I told everybody to get your notes out. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of bizarre a little bit with the whole St. Francis Prep. Like you didn't want to go, you didn't want to do football. So
Mm-hmm.
what you just said at the end, but I think despite of everything that you didn't realize you were going to do, you had a component of hard work in you. So
Yes.
like just getting there and genuinely caring once you got there, even wanting to quit. So you had the hard work. You did. I love how you said like I showed up the next day, but I don't know why. And
Yeah.
I think what happens with people that want to succeed is because you already had it built in you to
Mm-hmm.
hustle, to work hard. I don't think you let yourself not show up. It was you
Yeah.
in the moment of that push up, that plank or whatever you guys were doing, and you're like, I'm out of here. All I could see was you turning to me and say that. I'm like, yo, bro, we out. Like, we can go right now. Like that to me.
Exactly how I
When you
felt.
said it, I could see it. I felt like it was raining, it was cold, it was 5:30 in the morning, whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, the fact that you're like, I don't know why I came back. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, when you have something built in you,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the start of success. When you have that genuine care, a genuine passion, and a force to work hard.
Yeah.
What you said at the end, it was a mixture of chance and of course that divinity. So then God
Mm-hmm.
can actually align you in anything and you
Mm-hmm.
can potentially succeed because of what he's given you. So it's like you become the person or start becoming the person you need to be so that no matter
Mm-hmm.
where he lines you up, we up. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that is a wonderful, and you mentioned briefly that in that leadership, well, starting with the football team, it was something new, like a team, because we even talked briefly about when we both were like in the church, and there was a younger part of the generation that didn't get to really experience, after the whiz, we had a play, we all got together, and it was a wonderful thing. But I moved on to a team effect, and that was my first like, okay, this team thing. And people seem to be, when you were like, okay, there's people that are having the same passion as me. There's people that have the same goal, and that in life, that's important, right? So it's almost like in high school, you realize I got to surround myself with people that are strong, that are focused like me, that have the same goal, that are in the mindset to win it, that also want to quit, but they keep coming back. Because when you surround yourself with people like that, then when I'm weak, you're strong. And when you're weak, I'm strong. And so that makes you guys a wonderful football team. So then I hear you mention leadership. And I think that's interesting because you kind of quickly said you didn't think that first of all, you didn't think that you were a leader, but they saw leadership in you. But then fast forward, you said that you didn't think you were a good leader. What are those things that you think in high school that you felt didn't make you a good leader?
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
I can imagine.
It's so funny that you say that. I remember a buddy of mine who was like, we always were friends, but he texted me like a year and a half ago or something. And he was like, yeah, I might come to, like, this is when I lived in Dallas. Like, yeah, I might come to Dallas stuff. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, nice. He's like, cool. Like, come through. I'll take you to every barbecue place. I have a room to stay and stuff like this.
That's Freddy.
And like he said something which like was odd. He was like, wow, man, like you're a different version of like the Freddie that I knew in high school. Like he used some not nice words to describe me back in high school. But I think in hindsight, now that I know a bit more about leadership formally, is there's different ways to influence others, right? There's like role modeling behaviors, like stating authority, and like a handful of others. It's like kind of a framework of that. And I think I eared on, because it was football and felt like this big masculine sport, using only one of those influence tactics, where I could have probably tailored them a bit better for the team, the individual, in certain times. And I think it was just like a bunch of like, I thought football, being a leader, was like being very barky and yelly and stuff like that. But then you find and you read about other leaders who don't speak much and are like more meek, right? And once you've like learned what those things are, that's why when I reflect, I feel like I could have used those things better. But it was a good like learning in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you put forth, that was a time where you got to experience what works, what doesn't work, and then you went on to Missouri S&T and took that leadership role on right away. And I think that's important because it's one thing when one organization or one group of people see it in you, but it's another thing to go to a random, completely different state with a bunch of different people, and for them to say, okay, just because you were a leadership last time doesn't mean you're a leader here. But if they still see it, it's still there. And it sounds like you were really able to implement even a whole new leadership style, just in that, and you started to kind of hone in on your career and what you thought you wanted to do. So tell me a little bit about that teamwork and that leadership style, also while aspiring, because now the girl, I mean, I know the girls was around in high school.
What are you talking about?
Ew. My brother, look, my sister-in-law is Alba. I don't know nobody else. Okay?
Exactly.
But back in the day, my brother always had a nice young lady, around. And he was very respectful.
They were friends. They were friends.
Yeah, they were friends. They were friends. So I'm sure that came with the leadership and the team. But at the same time, being in college makes you start thinking more seriously about life. It's like, all right, school's about to be done. Like, I'm thinking about serious relationships. I'm thinking about, well, not completely in the beginning, but I'm thinking about career. And you were majoring in engineering, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
So it's a funny story because it starts at the end of high school. And like we joke about like the girlfriends that I did. I think the one thing that helped having like a sister like you and like a strong mom and like growing up in a household which like I think even in hindsight had such a strong family bond is I knew how to surround myself even in relationship with like other strong women, and like that was a component which I think actually does play into the story too. So that was when I got to the end of high school, I you have all these deep relationships, whether it's a girlfriend, best friends, you name it, family,
Yep.
and you start thinking about, hey, I've developed this thing which I will have for life, right? Or at least I thought. And then where am I going to go to college?
Yeah.
And you know, when you go to college and make that decision, that you're not in high school with these people every single day. It, I had a mix of places that were quite abroad, ranging all the way to Missouri, and then also some places that were local that might still help me keep my network. And I want to know, you're allowed to go on 5 official visits for football, to check out their schools or workouts. You get your offer, and then on the first Tuesday, I think, or the second Tuesday of February, you have to make your decision there, or I think you have until then, and it's called signing day. At 7 a.m., you wake up, you sign your thing, you put it in an envelope and mail it.
That's today. Today's the second Tuesday of February.
Yo, that's crazy.
How crazy. I was like, is he messing with me right now?
Like, I'm nervous. I hope no one fact checks the date or something. They'd be like, no,
great.
Freddie, it's Wednesday. It's the last Wednesday of February.
I know, right?
Did he play football or not? So I want to know these visits, and my favorite ones were Stony Brook, because they had some ballers over there. CW Post, which is called LIU Post or whatever now, and I could still be around my friends relatively close. But the most bizarre trip that I took was to this random school that sent me a letter saying, "Hey, Freddie, come to Missouri University of Science and Technology. We have a great engineering program." It was the most random letter that I ever got, because I didn't remember really. I don't know how they found me, if I reached out on their website, but I had this YouTube video out, and that's how college recruiters will go and see YouTube videos, prospects, etc. You put your highlight films, and I went on that visit, and yo, fam, there was nothing out there. It was a neighborhood about this big and trees. And the first night you're supposed to go party, right? Because you're supposed to take a recruit, right? You go party, make them have fun and see the social life, and then they're more excited to go, do what they have to do and sign for that particular school. But I skipped the party because the dude was like, "Hey, we're going to this foam party tonight," and I was like, "That sounds weird. I'm gonna go to sleep." In hindsight, I wish I would have went to the phone party.
Probably lit. Yeah.
Yo, they're mad fun. I wish I would have went.
That sounds amazing.
But shoot, man, I think what happened is I went to my hotel room, I looked out the window, and I got hit with a wave of semi-depression, realizing that I'm leaving, that I'm so far away from home. I was trying to figure out the whole relationship stuff back in the day. And that made it really tough. I was thinking about it, and then I looked out, and it was just literally trees. Long story short, as they drove me back to the airport, the coach, who's now the head coach of this team, said, "Are you going to sign with us?" And I was like, "Hey, this is, thank you for the opportunity, but I don't think so."
Right.
And as I sat there weeks later during signing day, and Dad was like, "You better not go to that Missouri school." I was like, "All right." No, let me stop. There were a couple of components. So you know how we always talk about our gut feeling and the feelings that we have versus thinking more objectively. So subjective versus objective. When I weighed the objective facts, which were opposite of my subjective feelings, I realized this was a strong engineering school. I realized that this had the most potential to really do the football thing while leveraging those strong math skills and engineering things that I think I had built in me. And I signed the letter. I had this moment of not relief, because it wasn't this is it, this feels right.
Yeah, right.
And it was another moment of why did I go do this? So fast forward, it was a weird summer because we had all these going away barbecues, and it broke my heart. Leaving New York literally broke my heart for 3 years. Yeah, you know the deal. You've been through that. My freshman year, about 2 months into it, we were not winning football games. I was redshirted, which means that you don't play yet, so that you can have 4 more years to play afterward, so you can get strong and get used to playing college football. And that quick journey was, I almost dropped out of school. I called Mom, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come back and maybe try and join the NYPD or something. The school is not for me." Mom didn't love that. but
Yeah,
she's
but you know how she gently and horrifically tells you, okay, come on back. No worries. You could join NYPD and you just don't have any friends, but come on back.
Nah, it's like that's spot on. Mom is like really good at providing that like gentle.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing that she did though was nudge me in the direction of my Uncle Ray.
Oh yeah.
And I know one of your talking points were role models. This is like one of I probably skipped a few, like Coach Carroll in high school, Coach O'Connor, who sadly passed away, I think like 9 years ago from tomorrow. But they were like big opportunity givers. I'll talk about opportunity givers in a second. But in this case, it was my Uncle Ray.
Yeah.
My Uncle Ray, my middle name is Ray, so that's why I go by Freddy Ray.
Ray.
I'm really proud of that. Freddie Ray. I'm really proud of that middle name. And weird thing about it, as much as a role model as he was for me, I was so afraid to call him like all my life, but I've been afraid to call him because I always felt like his presence was so like real and powerful that like I needed to be ready for that. And I also felt like very vulnerable in the presence of a conversation with Uncle Ray. But I called him and he gave me his journey and how he felt when he went to Cornell University. He was also an engineer. And his advice to me was like, Freddie, you can either drop out of school and go back to New York, or you can stay there. And that was it. And I got off the phone and I'm like, that's not the answer that I want from my mentor. Like, I want you to tell me what to go do.
Right.
But like, it taught me this whole component of being responsible for the decision that you need to make. And once you're responsible for making that decision, like committing to that decision.
Oh yeah. That's what I felt from that when you said that. It's just like, yo, make a choice and stick with it. If you go there, stay there.
I weighed all the like objective components and I wound up like obviously sticking it out. I'll fast forward a couple of years. What made it really fun is we started winning some football games. We got a new head coach. And that was like what I left New York City for, is to go play football. Once we started winning, it made this whole place like a whole other ballgame.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I started getting into engineering classes finally. So that also satiated the intellectual components that I was looking for. Started getting into the social scene. Coming from New York City, as diverse as it is, there's a whole nother world outside of New York City.
Yeah, I know that's right.
It's crazy, right?
No, that's so right. Because if you stay in New York, a lot of people are just like, nah, New York is where it's at. But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to explore living outside, if you can, I've noticed it can definitely shift your mindset about a lot of things.
Exactly. New York City is a very small town and people do not realize it. And it's like, it's a lot of stuff mixed together, but that same gumbo recipe is the same gumbo recipe, if that makes sense.
That's good.
So like that being said, I started winning football games, engineering. I then became captain. I also turned 21, which made college a lot more fun.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. So
bar hopping.
Yeah, I know. The Freddy Ray bar sprint was
invented. That exactly. I had the honor of going on one time out there. This is crazy. A piece of it, I'll say.
Exactly. Let's bring it back. So and I also started to get internships, right, which exposed me to like the professional world as an engineer. I got an internship with Procter and Gamble. I got an internship with Luminant, which is like a subsidiary or something like Vistra Energy, and like had so much fun. These internships were in Kansas City, right? I've never been to Kansas City. Had a blast there. It was awesome. Then Dallas, Texas, and I was like, wow, I've never been to Dallas, Texas. And I was getting like paid to go do this job as a young kid in college over the summer. So I like my first internship, I bombed. That was the worst. I did not get a return offer, but me not getting a return offer and what I've learned from the people that work there, I learned a lot about how to really be an owner and drive things in your professional environment, and then how to leverage your personal values to actually drive impact. But I think after that, so I was named captain for 3 years. I was having a great time. And then I hit my senior year. I was preseason All-American. Like I was in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
It was nuts. And
you were in a few newspapers, you were in a few articles.
I had.
It was crazy.
It was momentum. However, I got 2 weeks into the season and tore my MCL
Oh my
right
God.
before, or the 2 weeks before the first game.
Wow.
But I didn't fully tear it. So they were like, hey, we're going to try and make a knee brace for you. And then, like, if you can run around and demonstrate that you're healthy enough to run, then you can play. And that knee brace took like a while to make, and it did not. So they made it in California. They flew it overnight to Missouri, and this guy, I forget his name, drove it 2 hours and made it there because they have to custom fit it. They made it there an
Wow.
hour before the game. And like I went out there and I could barely run. I'm like, yo, this is so hard. And I was like so
Oh
out
my
of shape because I
God.
didn't practice for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Um, but I get in the game. I'm like doing some work, man. I'm tearing these dudes apart a little bit. And it felt good because I was like, hey, I just overcame something that would have been like almost season ending for me.
right.
And we got into like the second quarter, I think the third quarter, and like we were getting momentum, very close game. And there's one play I took their offensive tackle, like blew him apart, made this crazy tackle on the sidelines, and everybody's like hyped, right? Next
Yeah.
play, yeah, I know, right? You feel the energy, and then the next play, they ran the same play, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna make the same play again. And for some weird reason, while I made this play, I didn't get my arm around him in the right way, and I wound up tearing
Oh,
my bicep during that play.
oh. I
And
remember mommy's, all I
mhm,
remember was the other side. Mommy just being like,
mhm.
oh, Jesus, I gotta get out of it. I gotta get out there. And daddy's like, Donna, just wait. Just wait.
Yeah,
It's just like crazy the visual I'm getting here from
yeah.
like the first thing you said you kind of tore was your
I think it was my MCL. It's whatever tendon sits on the, or
MCL. Okay,
ligament that sits on
I
the
keep saying
inside of your knee.
ACL, but MCL.
Yeah,
Okay.
MCL. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then you
So,
get out there, you get this custom
mhm,
knee, you're killing it. You do this
yeah,
tackle, the same play happens again,
yes,
and then
and
I can't even say it. Your bicep. Oh my gosh.
yes, it is probably one of the top most uncomfortable feelings that I've ever felt. But
Oh,
the thing is, when you tear like a tendon or a ligament, it's weird. Like when you break a bone, it's clear you know that it's broken. When you tear a tendon or a ligament, it's weird.
yeah.
And it's a very painful feeling, but it's a confusing feeling. And I'm
Ooh.
at the bottom of this pile, and
Oh
if I was
man.
literally telling it's rough times, but I was wait, what did you say?
I said, oh man.
Yeah, yeah.
You're at the bottom of the pot. So this is right after the play.
Right after the play.
Oh,
Um,
I
and
can't.
if I ever had to choose any moment in my entire life where I felt most defeated,
Oh,
um, it was definitely that moment.
oh my
On
God.
the field at the bottom because my knee hurt, my arm hurt, and
Oh,
I just like it. Just you can't like you don't understand like what's wrong. When you don't understand what's wrong, that's like very rough. And when you're coming into a senior season, you got to understand like you spend literally like football season goes from August until November, and you spend every single day putting in the most effort to like work out, watch film, and those things are not easy. Like I've taken you through some of like my football workouts. I remember in the park that one time.
oh my gosh.
Um,
I got nauseous.
exactly, and like but beyond that, you're also away from home for this reason, right?
Yeah.
Um, like my grade suffered for this reason, so like everything hangs on these moments that you have, and it almost becomes like a part of your life. I used to joke like football is my life, but it's because you eat, sleep, and breathe it every single day, right? So anyway, that was rough. I think we lost that game. I still played, but like I could only like it wasn't to my top notch. And my second most defeating moment was at dinner that like after the game they give you dinner, and I couldn't even hold my plate up. And I was so confused. I was like, why can't I hold this plate of food? And I wound up just like not eating, going back and sitting in my dorm because I like knew something was up. Um,
Oh,
Long story short, the good news that came out of it is I was able to get my surgery the week after. Um, I don't know if we had that good of a season just because of a bunch of different factors. And when you injure yourself before your third game, you get another season out of it. So like you get one time to get injured before your third game, and that was like that one time. And low key, I
whew.
was sad and depressed, but I was excited because I was like, I get one more year of football.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
you remember that,
I
right?
remember that. It was like you extended your time there.
It did, yeah, exactly.
I was like, wow. Now
It was
I never
crazy.
really knew were you looking to go pro like NFL? Was that something you were considering?
It's a good question.
I never heard you ever say like out loud. At least I just never heard you be like, yo, I'm trying to like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
a
I'm just
couple
looking at
thoughts
you
on
and I'm
that.
just like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, all this is happening. Your
could have been
knee,
in the Super Bowl.
yeah, oh my gosh.
It's so funny because the Super Bowl just happened on Sunday, and there is a player on the Kansas City Chiefs who just won, and he played at Missouri S&T, and he played my position. Yeah,
Right. Well, that's kind of crazy.
so he's really good. And it was really
All
cool to
right, we
actually
on
see
the
him
map.
succeed. But yeah, I know we on the map.
We
But
on the map.
let me think. So the thing that I learned about myself in hindsight when I played football is, as much as I loved and cared about the sport, from a size perspective, probably not the most ideal size for an NFL player.
Mm.
Even though I'm 5'11" and 230 pounds back then. It's just like there's tons of other 5'11", 230 pounds that can run just as fast. And this might sound crazy, as hard as it might, or as it might seem for me to be a hard worker. I don't think I put in 100% effort into football that
Mm.
would have been required to overcome those things that I would need to overcome, such as like my height and speed and things like that, right?
Wow.
So like and what I mean by that is I worked hard, I know for a fact, but there's this component of the top 1%, right? And that's when you are putting in the extra rep, you're putting on that extra weight
Yep.
instead of, going out on that Saturday, you're in the gym or you're
Wow.
recovering.
I see.
And those were conscious decisions that I made. And I never in college was anything close to be good enough to being a pro player. I think I had the size disadvantage, but to be hard on myself, I also did not have like the work ethic or patterns. I don't think like the NFL was something that I perceived to be in my purview at
Right.
any time.
Yeah, I never heard you say that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
what's so, I'm gonna say, courageous about that is just giving your all into something
Mm-hmm.
that you know necessarily is not necessarily the path you're gonna take, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding everything it instilled in you for no matter what path you took. So the
Oh yeah,
leadership, the
100%.
hard work, like being able to bounce back from the injuries and just keep
Yeah,
pushing, taking the extra year to continue. Like I would have been like, well,
exactly.
I guess I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do tip
I
my hat
mean,
to you and players that it's just it's more
yeah,
than what people see
yeah,
when you hit that when you just come out and play the game.
that's spot on. I will also say, like, all that stuff is very right. I think freshman year of high school, I realized that you can get money for school. And I remember I told mom straight up
Hey.
freshman, was like, hey mom, like if I get a full-time scholarship, I want to be able to do that. And then you should buy me an Audi if I do. And then I got a full scholarship and she still owes me an Audi. Because I don't think she thought of, but I did see the math equation, and this will go into like some components that I was talking about like over text before, of like being intentional. I did intentionally see the math there, and that allowed me to go study a degree that I knew would have like financial and purposeful impact afterward, while paying for college. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of those things.
I like that.
Um,
Very intentional. Very intentional. And
yes,
you're a very strategic and intentional dude. Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, since day one, but like I noticed that after a time, you're very like, this is how I'm gonna move, and this is why. Like you have a what, but you also have a why. A lot of
yeah,
people do not have their why. And I think that's why I do love having conversations with you, because I love when people know their why, because you can do anything with no purpose behind it. You can waste a
yeah,
lot of time, and you can also
mm-hmm,
just completely be like just not receiving the things that you need to receive, or putting yourself in that place of divinity to line
mm-hmm,
yourself up because you're kind of clueless of why you're there. So that's
yeah,
what I love about hearing your story, where each time it's not like you had to, and I think people have to like, be encouraged by that. It's not like you sat there, and some people do, but it's not like you knew, I'm definitely going to do this next, then I'm going to do this,
mm-hmm,
then I'm going to do this. We try to do that, but it was more like, And I'm not really into that, but I'm gonna go. And then when I go, I'm gonna give it my all. Then I'm gonna find out why. Then I'm gonna see and like you said, those list of points that you get, I'm gonna be intentional about it. I'm gonna see what I
Yeah.
can get out of it. I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna grow. And so what's crazy now is through that, Missouri S&T and coming out of that, and I'm kind of meeting Alba towards the back end of your college career, right?
Yep. Yep.
Which is kind of crazy because you met her like through a friend, like she came from,
Yeah.
and you're like, like
That
tell
is
me
a crazy
something about
story.
that story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pull some of this. I'm gonna have to pull some of this today, just highlight a little bit for Valentine's Day.
yeah. Well, baby.
Because I'm like, when she came, I'm like, where did she come from? And it was like
Yeah,
a perfect match.
that's a good question. Let's see, where was I at? So this is 2014, and I just got broken up with over the summer from a girlfriend. I'm like, what the heck, yo? Like, you don't see all this? Um, yeah,
I'm
and
sorry, I'm laughing because I do remember sometimes where Freddie would be like, you told me once in high school, and then I think once before, like, yo, a girl broke up with me, and I just always found it like hilarious. In my mind, I always knew Freddie was gonna get the girl. So when he got
yeah.
broke up, I'm like, yes, good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you get so like, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
you
no
feel
one
some
likes
type
being
of
broken up
way.
with, but I'm like,
Yeah,
yo,
no.
what the heck?
Yeah, broken up with is never you never want to be on that side.
No. But what made that interesting is like I was in Texas at the time. I was in the heat of training for football season. I was in the heat of internship, which was my last internship, which was very important to do well on, so I can open up other job opportunities for full-time roles coming out of school. And the way that season works is you spend your last year getting an internship or a co-op, is what they call it, and then you hit the job market in September, and it's like crazy. It's huge. Like, you have this career fair day, you'll have a bunch of interviews, you go fly out to all these different places, and then like you lock down your offer, and sometimes offers don't line up with that, so you do have to be strategic again. All that being said, I was so depressed after that breakup,
Wow.
because and like no one likes breaks up typically but I was like kind of
I'm not
felt on my
working.
own, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I was in Texas, I didn't know anyone, I was doing
yeah.
this thing, and I was also in this stage in my life where I'm trying to figure out, like, college is over, football's almost over, like, what's my next identity, right?
Yeah, that's
um
good.
so like that rocked the ship even more. However, a couple things that had made me like kick into gear, because I think when your back's against a wall, you have to like really figure out how do you structure whatever you do going forward so that you can overcome whatever that thing is. And I think I sat down and I thought about, all right, that sucks, but like I need to have a really fun football season on my way out,
Mm,
right? This is 10 years of football and some of the most
right.
emotional moments
Oh
that
my
I had.
gosh.
So that was like number one. Number two is as much as I was a sucker for like really good loving relationships, it was time to double down on my career and figure out like how I get that kick started.
Mm.
So I went back to college. I was in this, it was weird because I would have to miss half weeks of practice to go fly out to this interview and that interview. And because of my previous internships, I had interviews with Ford, I had interviews with Cargill. They make like all of the grains in your cereal and salts and things like that. Boeing Defense, and like a good an energy company, and like a good like five other offers that were just flowing through, but it required you to fly here, fly there, come back, football practice, game, fly out. It was like
Wow.
the most nuts thing
How are
to
you
do.
getting interviews from these big name companies just thrown your way?
It's a
Was
good
it
question.
because of your academics? Like, or what, where was this
No,
coming from?
it was not because of my GPA. I'll tell you that much.
Because I'm like, okay, these are
Uh-huh.
some serious interviews.
So, this can be a deep topic, but I'll give you the surface level of this version first. I did not have a great GPA. One, because I probably didn't work hard enough as I should have, but two, like I played football and that made it really hard to put in the time. I was exhausted, like
Yeah.
falling asleep in class, right? My practice is where I like to say, but I had two really good internships from big names, and I did a really good job during like those internships. I can argue maybe
The
not so much for
internships
the
are,
first internship,
yeah, 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 yeah.
but I also had a really low GPA that was typically below the threshold of what most companies like want to hire. They want a 4.0, right? And then internships and stuff like that. However, when I went around to the career fair, I practiced my elevator speech. And after having like 3 previous years of like very like spotty interviews and like getting really lucky because a friend knew so and so, I learned a couple things that helped me help torpedo me into the interview realm. And one is learn how to bring your full self, right? When you go interview with a company, you're or even talk to recruiters, you're nervous, you're trying to put on this like front and say the right things. But what I learned is like, let me speak to these recruiters about the impact that I have, the person that I am, and like why those are key drivers, and like show them the full picture of like all of what I do and what I care about, football, work, the accomplishments that I have. And that bias towards impact and holistic impact, as I like to call, and holistic impact means like financial impact for a company, or impact on the employees that you've worked with, or the customers that they serve, blah, blah, blah. Garnered a lot more interest than being the perfectly polished 4.0 kid that I like never was going to be.
Wow.
And that opened up a lot of doors also in conjunction with the names that were on my resume. So long story short, like no interest of dating and all that stuff. And by chance, I ran into during like an earlier spring break, my freshman year roommate's ex-girlfriend on a random beach in Florida. Oh and I was like, hey, how are you? Let's exchange numbers and stay in touch. And Snapchat just came out, and like, you know how phone numbers like link Snapchats.
Yeah.
And her name was Amanda, and she posted this Snapchat one night. Like stories just came out, and she posted a Snapchat of her and her friend was Alba.
Oh my god!
And I remember messaging her when I was like, "Hey, your friend is really cute. Like, bring her to Rolla, Missouri, because she lived like 4 hours away." And I never got a response back. I forgot about it. 2 weeks later, I'm playing a football game and we're driving back. I hurt my knees and something, so I was like gonna go to sleep when I got back. And she texted me, she's like, "Hey, I brought that friend. We're at the bar down the street from like where you guys live."
Oh my gosh!
So I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. I'll see if I come out." The funny thing is,
it's so funny because I'm sorry to cut you off. I hear young Freddie, middle Freddie, older Freddie say the same thing before he meets a divine experience. I hear you say, I don't know. I'm not, we'll see, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going, or I'll see. It's hilarious. Yeah. This is wonderful.
That is very true, right?
I think it's inspiring, and I'm only harping on that because it allows us to remember at the end of the day just how much God is in control. And all we need to be is in place with ourselves. We need to be who we need to be, because we cannot imagine, like, if you knew what you knew now, you'd be like, I'm at the bar before you got there. I'm already working out for the football team. I'm already at Rolla while I'm in high school, because I know when I get there, this is the experience that I'm going to need to, like, you know, if we knew those things, we probably we wouldn't think about it. But because we don't know, there's many things. I actually laugh because I feel like one of my biggest kickoff successes is probably going to start right here in Cincinnati, because I still be like, why am I here? And I didn't really want to come. But now I'm starting to see things come together slowly. I'm like, okay, you've got me here for a reason. So I just love that, as before you embark on this incredible marriage that brings you incredible children, your response is, I'm going to see, because I might go to sleep. I love it. So you mentally, but with that statement, mentally and emotionally and where you were still who you needed to be, so that when that connection happened, it's it. So
I was one decision away from a very different life. That's very, very true. And you're spot on about that.
She doesn't live there. So it's just like, bro, get to the bar. I need my Adelie and my Ray Ray and my baby Justin here, okay?
That's true.
If I had to go back in time, I would be like, Freddie, freaking go to the bar.
Look, I don't know. Who else is there?
Yeah, I'm tired, Sirece. Like,
but I had hurt my knees that game, and I had trouble like literally walking up the stairs. We had a lot of stairs, so I was like, I don't want to go back down the stairs, right? But in hindsight, I was like 23, like 22 years old. I was fine. You know, like I was good. And then, so I told my buddy about this, who was also like, yo, I'm ready to take a nap. And I was like, like, this girl came and they drove. And Alba didn't know that she was a part of this like whole setup too until like afterward. But my buddy Dale, he was like, come on, Fred, like, let's go down to these bars and see these girls. And I'm like, all right, dude. So we go down, we're at the bar. We had like a couple pitchers because the bars close at 12. So we had like 1 hour. I was like, dude, we got a bunch of pitchers, like drink them fast so we can like, college Freddy. And we cannot find this group of girls in this tiny bar. I have no clue why. And because I had this idea to drink a bunch of pitchers, which was a bad idea in hindsight, like Dale gets a little sick and he's like, Fred, I need to go outside and get some air. And I'm like, he's gonna be mad if he ever hears. He's like, that's not my voice.
I'm like, all right, Dale. You gotta give me pictures of Dale. I
gotta send you pictures of Dale. Dale's the man. But I'm like, he's a good role model for me. But as we're walking out the bar, I finally run into the table of these girls, and I'm like, oh, hello. So Amanda's like, hey, Freddie, I want to introduce you to my friend Alba. And the thing that struck me was I was now in this headspace of like career, right? Not really interested in like going through this whole, because I felt like a lot of times when you enter these relationships, there's this whole game and dance and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, like I'm about to hit a big inflection point. I don't have time for the like convincing someone to like you or put on this front or whatever that was. Yeah. But when Alba got up and she introduced herself, she was like, got up and shook my hand and was like, hey, I'm Alba. And she brought this whole genuine presence that I've not seen before. Wow. That made me think like, that's like very interesting. Yeah. Like, let's talk. And mind you, I'm like college Freddy. So I have like my frat shirt on. I got my high top Jordans on. And my shorts were probably like 8 inches too far above my knees.
Those Hoochie Man shorts.
I have no Hoochie Man shorts.
To be honest, Daddy really invented them joints.
He did. We used to make fun of them, but I love them things now.
Like, look at them jeans.
Talk about breathability, right?
Some thigh shorts.
So that was in the middle of football season. We started hanging out and talking a bunch, and Alba drove like 4 or 5 times the 4-hour trip to Raleigh to come hang out. I immersed her immediately in hangouts like with me and my friends. So I was like, all right, like I want to see who the true you is, and I want you to see who the true me is. We had a blast, and we just had so much fun. And then we started dating on November 21st of that year. Fast forward, I accepted my role with Ford, right? And I was going to start in January. I moved to Michigan. And my first day of work, Alba called me crying. And I'm like, yo, I'm in my first meeting ever, but like, what's up? And she's like, hey, I didn't get into the nursing school, which is one of the only nursing schools in her area. Yeah. I'm just sad about it. So I don't know like what made me say this, because I didn't realize I was probably ready to commit to this, but I was like, hey, like, why don't you move in? There's 5 big nursing schools out here. Like, you have a lot of options, and I'm sure we can make it work. And the area where she struggled, which was like math at the time, was like my strength. So I was like, I can like help tutor you through all those like things if you come. So fast forward a bit.
I didn't realize that you were in Michigan by yourself first.
Oh yeah, for like 5 months.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, not long. Okay, dang,
not long.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's crazy. This is my first time realizing that.
Continue. Yeah, it was because we had such a journey afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
The other funny story in between that is like I wasn't thinking about engagement or marriage for a while, but I was just walking through the mall that like one of those weekends, and there was this ring that Alba had in her Pinterest for whenever she got engaged. And it was like trippy, like it had an engraving on the inside and a special diamond and like a special infinity and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's a nice ring, but like that's Pinterest. I'll never be able to find that.
Oh my gosh.
So I went into Zales and I'm like showing this lady this ring. And she's like, yeah, nice ring, but like, I don't know. But for some reason, she like was on her computer for a while and she kept like searching something to see like if there was something similar. And lo and behold, when she showed it, it was the exact ring from Alba's random Pinterest. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, what are the chances of this? God. Like,
okay, so the initial ring that you saw was not the ring. You were just like, oh, this is a nice ring. And
so the initial similar. So
it was similar. Okay.
there was a ring in her Pinterest. I saw a bunch of rings that did not look similar, and somehow this lady found a ring that was exactly that ring on the computer.
That's crazy. That's ridiculous.
When I saw it, and because it was so special, I was like, all right, like I just got like I was just saving up money for something. I have enough money to go buy this, and they also had a deal that day where like the extra diamond was like free, blah blah blah. So I wound up buying it just in case.
Now
But I bought it with the intent. I was like, yeah, I know, right? I know, like get this ring and show you. But when I bought it, my thought was, all right, I have the ring. If things don't work out with me and Alba, like I'll like probably just like either keep it or sell it. Which is like, I don't know, I was protecting my like, you know, risk. And then at the same time, I was like, if they do work out, then maybe like 4 or 5 years from now, like I can use this ring and propose to her. At least I'll have it, not have to worry about buying this in the future.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it was like the risk and reward like just made enough sense, right?
Yep.
Long story short, Alba moves in August. One Direction was having a concert. It was Alba's favorite band at the time. And God, you ain't listening to One Direction. You listen to One Direction?
No, I'm shaking my head because I know it's about to go down.
Oh yeah, you've seen this video. Actually.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
A lot of the news, they were saying that One Direction was going to break up. So I never really go to concerts, but I was like, all right, if they're going to break up and they're in Detroit, like I'm going to go take Alba to this. I took Alba to this. She didn't know. I told her that we were flying to a wedding. And that I surprised her because I left like the suitcases in the car. She's freaking out. She's like, 1, where's the airport? And 2, why are we leaving our suitcases in the car? Because she had no clue where the airport was. She just moved there. And then I surprised her.
Anywhere? Oh my god!
But I made her pack and everything.
Oh my gosh! I would have been like, what is happening here? That's great.
Yes, she was confused for like 30 minutes.
I would have been confused.
It was the funniest reaction that I've like, probably ever seen her have.
Like you got pulled up to the stadium or venue. It's just like, what? That's
exactly it. And then she was mad that I left the stuff in the car. It was just like the level of confusion and excitement was like just through the roof.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So I had floor seats. I proposed to her during her favorite song.
Hold on now, right?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Before we even get there, what made you decide it's time and that I'm ready to take this new role of a husband / a leader? Because, you know, I know you were thinking, yeah, my career, you know, but I mean, you started dating her and you just knew, but you knew that this was something you were ready to pursue.
I guess so. Yeah. Right. And like, I'll be honest, like it wasn't this whole, like she moved in and we had the like fairy tale, like relationship. Yeah. Like, it's hard moving in. Like I accidentally used her.
I was gonna say the same. I moved in with Daniel. Yeah. I did the same thing.
Yeah, that thing is like a whole different experience, right?
And I didn't have a job. Yeah, I didn't have a job, so I was home. You know, so I'm like, I guess I gotta cook. And what is this?
It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. People getting together, like there's always that honeymoon phase, right? There's always we're dating, and then when you take it to that next level, you're like, yo, we're really doing this. It can be, you know, that's when the rubber really meets the road, where you're just like, is this gonna work? And that's, I guess, how you know, not everybody, you know, can do it, but most people can move in together and successfully get to that place to say, we can continue this journey. And yeah, I did the same thing.
I think that's spot on. And like the big underlying theme of all that is a lot of people think, because someone just asked me recently who is getting married, but a lot of people ask, like, how do you know? Like, what's the magical moment, or like, what was that moment for you? And I think I learned actually from you in this like poster that you had on the wall that talked about like love being a choice.
Oh my gosh, right? Yes.
I remember that thing. I remember I used to reflect on
that. I'm looking around. I got my radio from my room in here, so I had it up here.
You didn't find that thing and put it back.
Yep. I still have this, which is actually now awkward because I'm talking to you at the moment.
Yes, there we go.
I literally didn't realize, and I'm like, I told you this joint doesn't leave here. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Wow.
That's Freddie. This is the Freddie we're talking about. He was 11 years old, Freddy Ray.
And you were 16,
Yeah, you could see it in his face that he was ready.
I still wear that suit to work.
You still wear that suit to work? Yo, exactly. Okay, so you became, first of all, you had this incredible proposal, which I'm gonna be showing because I know
Mhm.
you have that video. And it was just crazy, just that whole proposal and the way it all came together and the lights and you became a husband. Now you're
Yeah.
full into your career, you're
Yes.
a husband. And
Yes.
how long after marriage before you became a father?
Oh, yeah, good question. So the man, it's a crazy journey because we never had a normal year. That same year that we got engaged, we bought a house, our first house together.
Wow.
And we also got married on the deck of that house a month after.
Oh my
We got a
God.
dog, so that's all 2015.
Wow.
Um, and then 2016, like Alba got her green card, which was like a big thing that we were trying to figure out, right? Because
Yeah, I
that was
remember
another
that.
whole like
Right, right.
challenge. And then 2017 was twofold. That was the year that I decided to try and switch jobs. And then that was also like during that time, the year that we also wanted to have a baby. So 2017, which is 2 years after we got married, was when we got pregnant.
Wow.
And like we went through like a rough journey. Like we did
Yeah,
have like a miscarriage in the beginning.
yeah.
And then during the follow-up checkup, like after the miscarriage, which was obviously a very sad appointment to go to. Um, I had to leave Alba at the doctor's office, and then Alba called me like 5 minutes. She's like, "Babe, I'm pregnant again."
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh, I think that is like the most wonderful turnaround. I hate
"Yes,
that you had to experience the beginning, but that turnaround is
yes,
crazy to me.
yes."
Crazy. That's
It
a
was
wow.
it was very filling and fulfilling.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Oh my
so
god.
I think most of our pregnancies we've like found out by like random accident with the exception of Justin, who I think we planned pretty
That
better.
was
But
crazy.
um so
My
then yeah, like I finally I figured out which company that I wanted to work for, which was McKinsey and Company. I felt like I was a bit bored in the role that I had at Ford the first time. And I was just showing up to work for 8 hours a day. Everyone else was just showing up, and no one had like that fire that I really thrived off of when I played football, and that like made me like kind of restless, very
Oh,
bored.
interesting. Funny. That same feeling from football coming back in, feeling
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, where's the team at? Ooh, that plays
Yeah,
such a huge role in your career. It's like
exactly.
you can hit the ground running, but if the people around you, above you, below you ain't on that level of passion, commitment,
Yeah.
and follow through, and it's just like you
Mm-hmm.
just don't see it happening, that thing can
Yep.
complete you. And you start thinking it's so I'm so glad you said that. So going all the way back to high school, realizing the importance of a certain type of team in
Yes.
every category of your life. You found
Yes.
your teammate with your wife. That
Yes.
you got to know that she's the type of woman that's compatible with you for where you're going. And
Yes.
now you're talking about, I'm just so glad you said that. That is so, and for me, that's like a revelation for me. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And it never
But
goes
you're like,
away. Like,
I gotta get out of here. You start
hey,
feeling so unfulfilled.
yeah, you feel a lot of discomfort, and I think God, what I've learned is God will actually provide discomfort for you at times when it's time for, or when it's His timeline for you to move on.
Yeah, wow.
Um,
Ooh.
and I've noticed that for the last like three big things or four big things that I've ever done in my life, like I notice patterns of discomfort that seem odd, and I start to recognize like, all right, like probably start to look for the next thing.
Ooh, that's
But I
a
found
word.
this company, McKinsey and Company. They're like a global management consulting firm. They serve like governments, big companies, 90% of like the Fortune 100. And what they do is they advise top leadership of what to go do when there's big problems, or what to go do if they want to like grow or like change cultures and stuff like that. Um, and I spent 3 months, 3 hours a day practicing for the interviews because they're very tough interviews or case
Wow.
interviews.
3 months, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and like practiced 67 case interviews. I started getting people from around the world messaging me, like from all the way from Italy to Vietnam to like these random countries. Because once you start practicing and becoming good, it shows on your profile. And they were
Yeah.
like, I want to go practice with you. And then made it into
Wow.
McKinsey, which this job was very interesting because the opportunity came when Alba was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
I wanted to move to Dallas just because I wanted to try out a different city. And this job required travel for 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. So like putting myself in Alba's shoes, when you hear your husband like do all these things, you're like, I don't know about that. Now that's the tougher part of the job. But on the flip side, it was like really great financial health insurance is like free for like everything. But like most importantly, the career opportunities that you unlock from that particular company are huge. Like it's essentially like a place to train CEOs, future CEOs. And I forgot the number, but like, for example, Google CEO is ex McKinsey. And then there's tons of other big name like CEOs that have, been ex McKinsey, politicians, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted that broad scope. I wanted that impact. I wanted to be able to like learn those skills. So I was there for 6 years. It was
when you brought us out there and even just showed us, I was like, this is Freddy all the way.
Mm-hmm.
The cool things like the sitting and standing desk and the barbecue and beer. I was like, what? Like, oh my, it was just a different exposure. They say you don't think to the level until you're exposed to that level.
Yep.
I'm like, this is some cool stuff. But like you said, she was 8 months pregnant. So obviously our beautiful princess is born. First grandchild of the family. Everywhere we're all adorning over her. But what was that experience like for you in that first year? You were going after, like many people, not all, not a lot, but you were going after that career. But you have your first child. How did you manage that? And what were some losses and gains of that season?
I almost quit 2 weeks into my first project.
Wow, because you're just so you guys understand, you're home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and he's in another state.
Living out of a hotel.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they provide the hotel. And I mean, he was out, like, it would be really crazy. He was here in Cincinnati, but he was anywhere. He was everywhere. And even when he was somewhere, he was working. When he came here to Cincinnati, we're like, yo, Freddy Ray, we're coming. He's like, yo, I'm still in the room. And I'm like, oh my God.
I remember I was supposed to hang
people.
out.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. But you texted me at like 11:30. You were like, yo, like I thought you were supposed to hang out like after work and stuff like that. And then you were like, yeah, like you should have came over. Like you could still come over. I was like, hey, I'm still working.
Yeah.
And oh man.
Crazy. What we got to do is to see you. We got to see your hotel room, and that was it. He was done. Like, you know what I mean? So that is like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm saying this because like I can't imagine. It's almost like Navy, like you were just away, So what were some of those losses and lessons, I'll say?
Yeah. Losses and lessons.
You almost
the losses
2 weeks in. Why did you almost quit?
Why did I almost quit? The job was hard, right? The hours were crazy. My skills were in the process of being developed, and that stretched me more than anything. It was just like football once again, but and it provided that intensity, but in a corporate environment.
Yeah,
it's crazy, right? And the feedback,
just like football, you was like, yo, tomorrow I'm out.
Yo, literally, I was looking for other jobs, right, already. Oh. And like they give you a lot of feedback, and like they critique daily how you speak, how you email, how you like present, how you make presentations, how you calculate things, and that is intense. But that's also why you develop so quickly. I'd say like 1 year at McKinsey is equivalent to like 4 to 5 years elsewhere at that like age and tenure.
Absolutely, because in all of your conversations since then, I'm like, Freddy, he just will sound like a consultant in every conversation. Your level of speech and awareness, oh my gosh, has increased.
Indoctrination.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's just like, yo, so that's crazy. So, but you stuck it out. It
was cool. I'd say like quickly, the other loss was it felt really hard being away from my newborn daughter. Like I actually never like hung out one-on-one with my daughter until like a year and a half after like working there. But like learned a lot. And it used to break my heart being away from home from Monday through Thursday. But the thing is, like, once you stick it out, you get through like the pain of the development. I got used to it. And we found from a family life perspective, our weekends were more rich of experience because I was gone during the week, and we had to be intentional about providing rich experiences. My skills and ability to empathize and understand people like started to skyrocket in my personal life and my professional life. And I just started to like learn things about like how the world works, mainly like when it comes to companies and things like that. Like the stuff you do, you wake up, you go to the bank, you drink this coffee or whatever, you go to work and you drive home. It's like, I understand now some of the bigger pictures about all the micro movements and activities that you have and how these like companies actually are a part of your life daily. And now it can help influence those things. So I learned that. Then we had Ray, who was a bit of a surprise to us. I was almost gonna like quit McKinsey again because it's like I can't do this with two
Wow.
kids.
Okay.
Um, it's like yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
quitter.
You felt,
um,
yeah. And at this
yeah,
point, you were 3 years in? 2 years
yeah,
in?
it was about almost 2 years in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or because Ray is 22 months older than Adeli, and but then I had once again some people open some doors. The day that I was going to switch roles at McKinsey, someone opened a door for me to actually get promoted.
Oh my
Like the day that I
goodness.
was going to sign, and I was like, that seems enticing. Let me try this out. And I actually wound up staying on that path. Had Ray. One of the biggest things where I didn't want to travel away from my family, and I didn't know how I was going to make that work. But Ray was born the day that Dallas went on lockdown for COVID.
Oh,
So I wound up not having to travel for a good like 2 years after Ray was born.
oh, that's what
So that
happened.
like made it all work out. I got my promotion at the end of the year.
Oh,
I started becoming really good, and that was also the year where I learned how to be more entrepreneurial. And working with some others that gave me an opportunity at McKinsey, I started this thing called OpsCore, or McKinsey Inclusive Black Accelerator, which is essentially serving small to medium Black-owned businesses for free and helping them in our Black communities build Black equity. And that's when like things started to click for me, right?
wow.
Um, the rest of the years were cool. Like I had some of the greatest experiences that I've ever had, like in healthcare, banking, litigation, and I began developing an expertise in strategy and operations for automotive, aerospace, and the Department of Defense. That last piece was really cool because I didn't know I had like a patriotic purpose, and
Wow.
like I actually
Yeah,
got to serve that.
that's it.
Um, that was really cool. And then came a time, which is like as of recent, where things started to become more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like
and
the
I
weird,
started to
I
notice
love how
that
you
pattern.
said the weird uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
sticks out from the regular discomfort where you're just
Yes.
like, this might be another moving. Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually comes in the form of when you think, at least for me, when you think things are going great and they are, and
Oh
then
my
like certain things
God.
happen, or
Oh,
opportunities which seem like they'd be like the big momentum opportunities start to like waver a bit.
oh
And
my
you
goodness.
like start to grab onto it and it like waves, you grab onto it and it wavers.
I know that's right. That's
Um,
very interesting that
yeah.
you're saying that. And kind of again going back to what you learned in S&T and speaking to Uncle Ray, and again
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of I just want to quit, but seeing what happens when you decided to stick it out, you decided to make a choice and to commit
Yes.
to it. And I think what's just crazy is going back to that word divinity. Like you got Ray Ray, and Ray Ray's born and
Yeah.
COVID hit. Now you're
Yep.
no one foresaw that happening, but
Yes.
you stuck it out. And with that, God really blesses the commitment. And I think
Yes.
that's like so huge. And then you get a promotion at the end of the year. So that's incredible. Um, and then here comes 6 years later, and all of these incredible experiences and growth spurts and learning and opportunities and traveling around the world and turning
Yes.
1,000,000 points, which my husband is like, obsessed over now. Is like, we got to
Yeah.
we gotta get hotel
I
points.
always send Danny a screenshot to make him just a little jealous.
Yo, if
Like,
you
oh, hey,
do,
Danny, got
that's
this
all
email. I'm
he
excited
talks
to
about. That's all we got to get our points up. I'm like,
travel.
bro, I need you to sit down. And here comes that discomfort. Um,
Hmm.
Alba's pregnant again. With the third
Yes.
child, which
Number
we were
three.
all like,
Correct.
what? You
Yes.
guys are settled in this beautiful home. You've got community there now. You're in
Yes.
marriage. You're a father. You're a husband. You're a career man. And now the discomfort
Yes.
comes again. Isn't that just wonderful? And you said like, oh, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
And I know what that means to feel like something like you're like, oh, a wonderful big opportunity. Like you feel like
Mhm.
momentum is happening and you grab onto that and you just kind of feel like, what just happened? What's happening
Yeah.
right here?
Yep.
You saw it going one way and
Yeah.
it starts to backtrack and it starts to backtrack fast. And there's a
Yes.
lot of uncomfortable things that actually start to happen. And you're just like, okay, it's time. So what was that like for you? Because now you've got a like it started off with Freddie in Michigan by your
Yeah.
now you're in
Yes.
Dallas with a wife and a kid
Yes.
and a oncoming kid, two kids, oncoming
Yes.
kid, a dog, you know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And a community of people. You've got your church, you've got your friends, and discomfort happens. How convenient. Tell us a little
Yes.
about that.
So one one thing I was reflecting about this, and as with any marriage, when you have opportunities that involve trade-offs, like those conversations and those movements are tough. Um, the discomfort that I'll tell you about the discomfort, and I'll tell you about like kind of the decision journey and like success related to that is the discomfort started to come and like I didn't feel like I was having the impact
Yeah.
right on like the world, etc., or the things that I wanted to really see move forward, that I truly desired. I just got off a project that was like 4 months long, and I would wake up at 2 a.m. every morning, fly 4 hours every single Monday for like 16 weeks, fly 4 hours, have a 20-hour day. Like was going to sleep at like 3 a.m. It was a fun project, but it like took its toll, and it didn't yield the fruit that I like thought it would, even though I was very happy about the impact that it had. And it
Yes.
started to make me think, is like, all right, this is cool. Like I've learned a lot from this stuff. I've met a lot of people, but I might at some point leave. But then I got into another project, was like, oh,
That
maybe I'll stay.
crazy? Yeah,
Right?
maybe I'll stay.
Maybe I'll stay. But
Wow.
then a recruiter from Ford hit me up, and what I saw in her tag, it said, I think it said something about like leading diversity and inclusion. And I was like, and she was a Black recruiter, and it felt good to see like a woman in leadership reach out on a type of role that they were looking for. But we started off our conversation just talking about our values and our lives and stuff like that. I gave her a quick rundown about what I did. She's like, oh, well, by chance, like I have this role which requires an ex-consultant, someone who knows about Ford, and is like a director of corporate strategy. I think you can make big impact here. And I went through this whole round. I was not super interested in it because I was like, no, this like thing in McKinsey is like working very
We go
well.
again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this was the first time in my life where things were not as clear when it came to making this decision, I think. Maybe it was like some of the Missouri S&T, I can argue, but when the opportunity came, Ford came strong with like the opportunity. And I
Rolling out the
spoke to
red
like,
carpet and all. They
what'd you
rolled
say?
they rolled out that red carpet for you.
They did. And like they made it a place that was very welcoming and warm, and I appreciate them for that. And they've stayed true to that even after the like starting the job. But I spoke to like 10 senior McKinsey people thinking that these brilliant people will give me the answer. But it was almost like an Uncle Ray moment where they said, hey, you either stay at McKinsey and here's what you'll get, or you go to Ford and here's what you need to think about.
Mm.
Um, and this was the one time where I made a decision, which it didn't feel like the big aha. I
Mm.
just like weighed the objective facts. And the one thing that I've learned about like success at this stage, I've heard this before, is you spend your whole life, you play baseball, you hit a home run, and like, people cheer for you, you become captain of the football team, people cheer for you, get your first job. When when you start getting to a point where you have a lot of very important stakeholders involved, kids, your significant other, your extended family, right? Like you guys are going to move to Dallas and stuff. Um, that success is like great, but it's not. You have to sit and literally weigh the different sacrifices that you have to make and look at how does that affect this person in the short term and the long term. And that actually made this one a lot harder than the others. And it almost felt like it's like, great, I got this great job that I've always wanted. But it was like bittersweet. It's like, we're going to have to leave all of our very close best friends that we have. I'm going to have to leave the best barbecue in the world for,
Hey,
for this. And that it made it very, and we moved into this house that was like a fixer upper. We're gonna have to go move into a house that like needs work, and we won't have the time, and it's a new neighborhood and like different financial strains and figuring all that out. So that like put a new perspective into being very thoughtful in all of everyone's situation, but also what that meant long term.
Yeah.
Because it was not easy when me and Alba talked about it. However, when we look at it today and we look back on like how it wasn't easy versus the trajectory that both of us have now, and also like how it's set up for our kids, we're like, wow, like this is cool. That worked out. But like we had to sit there and calculate every component about what neighborhood we live, what school they go to, what job opportunities, what this role could potentially lead to in the future, and also balance those with the purpose that we think we have, right? No one ever like fully knows, I don't think, but also like more importantly, like what does that road look like? It's going to, where will that road seem like it will take you? If that makes sense.
Wow.
And that's where we ended up now. So it was like more complex and like a bit messier in terms of you don't always have the clear, this is the big thing, you know, that you're gonna go do, and it's gonna be great and successful. But sometimes you have to absorb, be thoughtful, be intentional, and like move on to that journey and commit to it.
Woo! Freddy Ray, everybody. And these points that you said, thoughtful, intentional, aware, executionary. That now,
I sent you my text, right? That was my reminder.
No,
Can I
but
explain those real quick?
Absolutely,
Like,
because as you're talking about where you ended up in life today, and as we kind of culminate this section, the points make so much sense to me, and we talk about where you are now, and it's remaining spiritually centered, career focused, family interested, mentally healthy. I'm not gonna lie, like there were some times where I would just be talking to mommy and I'm like, I just hope he's okay. Mentally, when you were just, it was so much on your shoulders with your previous job. And I'm not gonna lie, like when we talked about the shift, of course, my first thing was, oh man, we almost had an opportunity. But now my brother is 3.5 hours away, so I'm probably gonna see him next month because we gotta get out. I just saw him last month, and that's wonderful. And so I love how you talk about it gets to a point when you're talking to other men growing and even women, your choices now affect very key players in your life, beginning with your immediate family, your wife, your spouse, your children, right? And then having that conversation. And I love that you said that even that is so encouraging. I'm over here taking my own notes for myself because I know that making a decision and not feeling like that aha insecure moment, like that's what I look for. I like to know that even because it's divine, it should feel divine, but it not in the beginning. So I love that you said it just got messy. Like you had baby Justin who's over there carrying bags at 3 to 4 days old. He's packing you've got your whole family uprooted into this home. And I just remember when you and I were talking and you're like, I'm looking at this certain place, but some people think I'm crazy. I'm like, do it. I am a of change. And now that's one of the things me and my brother have a lot in common. Like, I don't mind it getting messy. I hate when it gets stagnant. I hate when it gets stale. I hate when it gets boring. I hate when I'm surrounded by people that are not on that level of passion and fulfillment and seeing things done. So me and him I don't know, maybe just because we were raised like that, but we are very similar in that. So I understood when he was like, can't you see the vision? I'm like, bro, absolutely. Put the bubbles on the ceiling and add it, So thinking about your life and the testament and your story is continuing and all the chapters that have led up to this, the key players, the role models. And like you said, ultimately your decision is just based on your why. You guys were both like, what's our purpose? Are we able to still fulfill that if we make this decision? Let's do it. Let's do it. And as long as you do it together, as we conclude this interview, share your points and share your nuggets of wisdom as I'll be taking my notes because this is I gained so much from everything you've done, from your experience with football and leadership, how it's still overflowing in your life today.
Yeah.
As successful as my brother is, in your career with Ford now. I mean, he's at the top, y'all, and he's still going. And you can just hear the struggle and the messiness under that.
Yeah.
He had to keep pushing through. And so share with us some of your final points on just navigating this thing called life and wanting to know that you're being successful with the choices that you're making.
Yeah. And like just to synthesize all those like components, it's like one thing that I've learned is when you see others that are successful, you think like all that stuff that they are doing is like very straight and perfect. But to be honest with you, like I have a good sense of what my why is, but that thing like evolves over time. And I like feel like you never truly know. Most of those people that are very successful, when they talk about their successes, it's not because they knew like what were the drivers of success while they were there. It's like they saw it in hindsight. They can look back and say, oh, that was the pattern. Exactly. So I say that for those that sometimes feel like they're going through a very specific situation to them, and like they're struggling to figure out their purpose, their identity, and all that stuff, and the why. It's like most others are too. The most successful people that I know have and have had that same happens. Number two is through that journey, like the ebb and flow, right? Like what people don't see, like people see from the outside, like new job, new house, like kids, and like smile, and the Instagram picture with the family at the pumpkin patch and stuff like that. But like they don't see the things that everyone else also goes through, just like, people that will watch this, for example, like career might be a strain, right? Mental health at a time might be a strain. Like we've had financial strains, right? Like no matter how much it seems, marital strain, right? And those things will just come back. The hard part about it, through your life, the bar for those things are always moving. So you're always trying to develop to catch up to that bar. And at sometimes some of those things won't meet the bar, they'll exceed the bar, then they find, so you're always trying to bring that up to the next level with you, your career, your health, your mental health, your emotional maturity, your friends, all those things. But which brings me to my full points. I think the common themes for me, and this is what I've been reflecting on over the last months, are one, you have to be thoughtful. Two, you have to be intentional. Three, you have to be aware. And then four, you have to be executionary. Or I don't know if that's an actual word, but it sounds good.
I'm hearing a small book.
You like it?
Yeah, for real.
Then to quickly explain those, being thoughtful is being like calculated, right? I literally have an Excel file for decisions that I make. And I'll come up with the categories to calculate my Excel file to make sure that it's the right decision. And you always talk about gut feel. There's times to probably follow your gut, but I think most of the time you have to find the perfect marriage and balance between being thoughtful in a way that your spirit is pulling you in. You have to be able to discern that from just your human feelings. And then thirdly, you know me, I'm very logical. And mom always says, you can't logic this like situation and whatever. I'm like, yes, I can, because the logic is clear. But being like logical and calculated and forward looking about how those decisions you make, blah, blah, blah. Intentional means be very intentional in the decision that you make, understanding what the consequence of that decision will be. And that's super important because sometimes those consequences won't be as straightforward. As I mentioned, like when we were making this transition, it wasn't very easy. We had to, depart from a lot of friends that we love and miss so much, right? And great barbecue again in Dallas. But the third point on being aware, in football, we call it keeping your head on a swivel. When you're a linebacker, if you're looking in one direction, you might get hit from the side or you might miss the play or the ball. And so you always have to keep your head on the swivel. And it's very important to be hyper aware of all the movements and developments that are coming into place so that you can make the right decision and intention. So you might start seeing like an economy move a certain way that might be related to your job, or you might start seeing friendships develop in a certain way, or you might start seeing patterns within your own household start to move in a certain way where you need to like make those changes. but you need to be hyper aware of all of those movements and how they come together so that they don't surprise you and catch you on your back feet, but you're able to like now make intentional decisions because you were being aware of those things. And then this fourth part, which is like the hard work piece, is once you are thoughtful, you've calculated what you want to go do, right? And what the risk reward is. You're intentional because you now made decisions to put those things into place. You're now aware because you understand how all the factors around those decisions and calculations play with each other. You have to go execute, and that's a hard part of it. But if you plan it like very well, you have to execute, you have to execute, you have to execute, and that's where the hard work part comes in. All of that hard work without all of this stuff before just means you're working hard in a direction that probably doesn't yield impact. So you have to make sure that that hard work is and sits on the foundation of being thoughtful, intentional, aware. So that's my 4 points.
Freddy Ray, everyone. I love that because that last point to execute is real, because how many people do we hear talk a good game? Some people do. I think that's what it means to talk a good game. You can talk a good game when you're able to talk about the thoughtfulness, the intentionality of it, the awareness. Everyone's like, wow, okay, that's good. But then like a year later, you're like, wasn't he supposed to wasn't he talking about that?
What happened to that thing?
Yeah,
exactly.
what happened? So execution is hard. Taking that step and making all those things become a reality, because then what does happen is once it becomes a reality, then those are what you call those unseen obstacles that arise, and you have to you can't prepare for unseen obstacles, but you're better prepared when you've done those 3 steps. You know what I mean? So you're just like, look, okay, so our jacuzzi fell through the entire ground. Well, I'm glad we're here because we saved up for things like this, or we don't need it anyway. Whatever the case is, you know, it's a mindset, and it goes all the way back to when you sharing your story of even deciding to go to St. Francis Prep, coming into that new chapter of your life where you're starting to grow into a preteen and a teen and a young adult. You were already in a place where your mindset was already there. You're sitting there. This story begins way before that, but this particular story begins with you playing Madden and being like, you know what? This ain't working because I'm getting my butt whipped. So you know, I'm gonna go try out for the ball. And I think that's amazing, because in that game of Madden, you were determined to win. So if it wasn't working, you shift gears to something that was take you there. And I think that is wonderful. You didn't come out with this whole elaborate plan. You just gave everything a chance. And with that, you had the thoughtfulness, you had the intentionality, and you were aware, and then you executed. And I think that's something, when I did my intro to this video, I was like, I call him my older brother, because there's a lot of things that he's exceeded me or done first. He's had kids first, and he's moved first. And, you know, and it was just like, he's executed. So there are things where you look at people that have executed. Those are the type of people I admire. I don't care how old you are, because to execute something shows that there is a level of commitment, and that you're willing to stick to it, and that you have the tenacity behind it, that you plan, and you're taking people along with you, which is even harder. You know what I'm saying? So you thought about these things, and I said, okay, if he can execute, I can execute. He can have a baby, I can have a baby. And you don't realize the empowering thing about that. So this story time has been wonderful, because you, like I already knew, have shared things that I'm just now learning. I mean, I've heard many of your stories in bits and pieces, some when I'm in the mirror barely listening to you, but this really allowed me to hear just what it takes, a large part of what it takes to this thing called life. And my last question to you is, like, remaining spiritually centered. What does that look like for you with the busyness of life? Because you can come above water sometimes, you know, and staying spiritually centered does not always mean I'm in my word every day for 30 minutes on my knees. Sometimes it's just maintaining that relationship for a season. Just like relationships look different, our relationships with God can interchange through seasons. And what would you say for young Christian men that are maybe getting wrapped up in the business of life and still looking to grasp to that spirituality?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. There's a couple of points on that. So just as I mentioned, like, you have an ebb and flow with your marriage, your job, your finances, you like definitely have an ebb and flow in your your walk, right? Your Christian walk, and your faith. And I think that's important, like one of the most important things to acknowledge, because I think most people, when they get to a spot where they were consistent and like doing well there in their word, they felt spiritually connected, like strong in faith, blah, blah, blah. And then it slips, and then they perceive others to continue on the perfect path. It actually forces people to like withdraw a bit more, right? And because I think that their walk needs to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and it does not, right? And I don't think anybody has a perfect. And I like a lot of people don't talk about that. Like a lot of people will talk about how their life was before they got saved, but no one
Yeah.
talks about their life, like how it
While they're
ebbed and flowed
saved,
after
and
being
yeah,
saved.
the
Exactly,
struggle, the Christian struggle. Yeah.
it's deep. So I like, even if I look at myself today, it's like probably not in the best place that it was historically at times. And I've like recognized that. But I think a couple of components of one, the core of my belief. So remember I spoke about the underneath the iceberg thing, right? You
Yep.
have your
Yep.
behaviors and your feelings and beliefs and
Yeah.
values. Your beliefs drive your values drive your feelings drive your behavior.
Yeah.
Um, because that thing is so core and so real and genuine, it's like a foundation that no matter if I'm like, I'm gonna oversimplify, doing great as a Christian or not doing great as a Christian, that thing, that's the one thing that never changes is my belief. Um, two, what I found when I reached the two, like when life gets hard, being a, like keeping, I hate to say it this way, but keeping up with your Christian practices also get hard,
Yeah.
right? When you
Yeah.
have kids, it's like hard to get like the kids ready to go to church on
Yeah.
time.
Oh
Or
my.
sometimes you're tired and just don't want to go to church. Or you might have like things that go on in your marriage or your work job that make you get into this place where instead of reaching out to God to go fix those things, you like reach out to other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like that happens and that's normal. And it's like people should know that we're human,
Mhm.
and that happens. But to my third point, I have a very strong belief that when you get into these situations, and even when you're not in these situations, of having the like the ebb part of your Christianity is to find tactical behaviors that will help drive strengthen your Christianity, even if they're small,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people think they need to go to like this big Wednesday 4 hour service to go
Yes.
refresh.
Little
That's just
thing.
going to be boring.
Yeah. Right.
No
Right.
offense, but like some like those things. So in some examples of that is at the very minimum, like read your verse of the day at the very bare minimum, right?
Mhm.
At the very bare minimum, like after you know, you can go say your grace in that standard, but a lot of times when you say your grace, you get into like a thing where you're not even thinking about the conversation you're having with God. What I found has helped me as at night and sometimes even by myself in my own head before I go to sleep, like I have that one-on-one prayer and I do it every single night. And even if I'm not living the best life or if I am, like that thing has like gotten super it builds and connects the strings that you need.
Yeah.
And then
That's
another tactic is like show up for church,
yeah.
right? Go to
That's
church. And this
good.
is like people will have different opinions on that. It's like if you find that you're not getting the energy out of like the church environment, or even if it's a great church environment,
Yeah.
right? And like the style is just not what you're used to, like
100%.
that's okay. Like go
Yeah.
try something different. And you don't have to
Yeah.
like, right? And I've learned that because like, I remember I went to a church and they were like, hey, like doesn't matter of the style of this, like church is church, we have the choir. I was like, yeah, but I actually learned better in this other
Yeah.
way.
Of
Or
course.
like these type of songs like allow like relate
Hey,
to my culture as well. So like
absolutely.
that's all okay. But just to try and do that consistently.
I love that. Ebbs and flows, even in your relationship, but also maintaining, connecting to his word and having your
Yep.
way to keep that communication open with him. And you'll
Yep.
find, and I love that you said that, even that analogy you gave earlier, like even that bar is raising and you try to eventually attain a new way to connect with him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so funny that you said that because sometimes I used to be like, man, back in the day, I used to, I got to get back where I was with God. And God is like, no, you're new, you're different, you're older. There's things that I've added to your life. So I want to get with you where you are today. Because where you
Yeah.
before, when I was in high school and I didn't have a husband and I didn't have kids, and I didn't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about bills, I didn't have to worry about what I was eating that night.
Mm-hmm.
I literally
Yep.
showed up for school and I could get into my Bible and I would read. That's when I pretty much became a loser because I just started to introvert in high school and I started to extrovert on the step team I was a part of. So I kind of shut a lot of social doors down in high school. But when I look back, I'm like, God, remember those times? And he's like, yeah, I do, but I want to know who you are today. I want to talk to the Mackenzie, the Ford Freddy. I want to know where the husband's Freddy mind is at and where the father Freddy mind is at. So I really appreciate that outlook. Accept who you are today and where you are today and bring that person before God instead of get back. I mean, it's good to have practices that you've known work before, but sometimes they won't work today. You know what I'm saying? So, Freddy, this has been nothing short of an honor and a privilege. As my younger brother, I have always, one thing that has been consistent for me and my outlook is just being proud. No matter the ebbs and flows that we've had in our own life, I'm like, oh, I can't stand him, but I'm still so proud of him. Like, he's still killing it at life and he's still, growing. And I think you've always, even in your, because people like you can be intimidating, especially in the sense of, again, not everybody is out here executing. A lot of us are not executing. So that's already intimidating. So people can be shy away. But what I think has always been so cool about you is your humility to connect with anyone and to be genuinely interested. Like, whether people can take it any type of way because they're like, yeah, man, I'm just looking for a job. And it's like, you'll be like all quiet and be like, all right, cool. So what's your strategy for looking? Like, looking? That's Freddy. He's like, yo, I'm not judging you if you're looking for a job, but like, have you applied to anything in the last 3 days? All right, well, you want to come up with a plan? That's him. He genuinely cares. And he's not going to let you say that you want to do something or want to be something. And this is why I really wanted to do this story time, because I think it's wonderful to hear from mindsets that are strong. I think many of us can pull from some of these tactics in our own lives and really true success, which again is not what we see, it's who we become and how we approach life. And even it's so funny when I talk about spiritually centered, that was through your theme the entire time, because you kept saying divine. This was divine. You've heard God move. I like to say he's moving my cloud, like when he would move the clouds by day and the Israelites were like, okay, it's time to go. And then the fire by night would mean, okay, it's time for us to camp here. That's how I'm like, my cloud is moving. I don't know what's next. But you had that same divinity. You're like, yo, it's getting real disturbing in a weird way. God is saying you've had that divinity throughout your entire life and you can continue to, and I encourage you to just keep doing what you're doing, keep remaining humble and open as you grow. I'm super excited for this new recent chapter of your life.
Thank you.
New job, new baby. Let me tell you something. As you continue to live a life that executes, these are the things that you get. But obviously, with more blessings comes more responsibility. So continue to pursue that balanced life when you need to take a moment. You know what I'm saying? We're super excited. We're happy that you are here on Storytime with Sirece. And we know we'll be coming back to you for another category in the future. So thanks so much, Freddy Ray. Give it up for Freddy Ray.
Freddy Ray. Thank you. This was a pleasure.
I love you, my little Freddy.
I love you too. Oh my God.
We'll talk very, very soon. Well, guys, that was an incredible story time with Sirece with my very own brother, Freddy Ray. I hope you guys gained some wisdom, some encouragement, some empowerment. And again, don't forget to share and subscribe. And I'll be back with you again with another story time with Sirece very soon. Bye.
I know how you feeling, and you know I'm around. My heart you stealing from whatever you dealing. I know you had me say ole ole. I know you're feeling for them brighter days. I know you had me, it's okay, okay. I know you're going through, I know you're going through. I know you had me say ole ole. I know you're dreaming for them brighter days. I know you had me, it's okay, okay. I know you're going through, I know you're going through. you got. I know how you feeling, you hitting with everything you rock. And I know that feeling, and baby, it's true. None of those haters could walk in your shoes. All of that history past, it ain't you. Baby, you dumb and got nothing to prove. Hit him with that everything you drop. Don't need to remind him at all about everything you not. Cause I see the beauty, you know that you do. They don't see through it and know how you grew. You know we the realest, so stop acting new. Baby, you with me, you know we don't lose. Late night, baby, baby. I know you feel me, but you need time, baby, baby. Through that smile, you've been bruised, bruised, bruised. But baby, I'm just here for you, you. Baby, and I wanna take you riding. I wanna take you home. Even if your heart is broken, you won't be alone. I saw you wake up and get in your ride. Show up to work while you broken inside. Put on your smile while you holding your cry. But you ain't gotta front and fake it for me. And every single time I watch you succeed, how many times did you doubt and believe? How many times did you prove to the world at the head of the table you sit in your seat? How many times did you print in your mind that we weren't good enough and destined to be? Don't let the past keep living between us, cause I see my name on the heart on your sleeve. Say olay, olay. I know you feeling for them brighter days. I know you had me, it's okay, okay. I know you're going through, I know you're going through. I know you had me say olay, olay. I know you're dreaming for them brighter days. I know you had me, it's okay, okay. I know you're going through, I know you're going through. Let me take you to it. Everything you got, I want, and I got what you need. Baby, put your arms around me, I'm your remedy. Everything you got, I want, and I got what you need. I got what you need. I got what you need. Everything you got, I want, and I got what you need. Baby, put your arms around me, I'm your remedy. Everything you got, I want, and I got what you need. I got what you need.